Chapter 10. In the deafening silence, the delivery man looked at us, as though deciding what to do about finding baby mice nesting in his Bibles. Would it be poison or drowning? Would he feed us to a cat or stick us in a trap? He looked at us, and we all looked back at him, hardly daring to breathe. The man had removed his wilted carnation and had loosened his pink necktie. He had his sleeves rolled up at the cuffs, and when he folded his arms across the front of his faded overalls over his narrow sunken chest, Carleen and Rhonda, the sassing and squabbling ladies, finally showed their faces, or rather, their places. Carleen was tattooed in fancy letters on the man's right arm above a black rose with thorns like nails. Rhonda was tattooed on the man's left arm, beneath a red heart with the word Mom inscribed inside it. As I watched the letters of each name eddied and jived, my stomach turned over as the lines began redrawing themselves into the likeness of women's faces. Their argument started up again. "You're his mother, Rhonda. What did you do to make Lester grow up so soft? The man's got no fight." "Don't blame me. Lester takes after his useless fool of a father, the weak man. But maybe, Carleen, if you didn't insist that my boy give you every nickel and dime he makes from delivering those Bibles for your cousin, Lester would have a chance at getting ahead for once in his life, instead of suffering to support your lifestyle." I watched the two women, animated from the lines of their own names, like comic strips and the Sunday funnies, come to life, and I felt my head go filmy and fuzzy again. I took a step back, weak-kneed and shaken, trying to remind myself that this was not my savvy. This was just my mind playing tricky tricks on me. I still had to get to Papa and wake him up, because that was what was supposed to happen. I wanted to sit down on the cot before my jelly legs gave out, but Bobby was still stationed there, and Will Jr. standing in the way. Then Samson was in the corner of my eye like a ghost, his tender touch brushing my back. I no longer felt like I would fall, and I could blink my eyes against the yammering women and began to scumble their voices to a slightly lower volume by relaxing and taking some deep breaths. "What are you kids doing back there?" the delivery man said, his voice gelled and glum, yet surprisingly tuneful, like a country western singer yodeling from atop a cactus. None of us said anything, not knowing what to say or who would say it. "Now, don't make me repeat myself," the man said, still musical but jittery, as though talking to kids gave him the jim jams. "That's right, Lester," said Rhonda from the man's left arm. "Show them your backbone." "Oh, like he's got some kind of gumption," scoffed Carleen. "He'll make a good short show of it before he crumbles. These kids will be driving the bus and telling them where to sit in less than 10 minutes. Swallowing hard, I took a small and careful step toward the man. "Are you heading back down to Kansas anytime soon, sir?" "We were just trying to get to Salina." Lester looked down at me, arms still crossed, straining to keep his thin shoulders still as he did his best to stand his ground. His mouth worked like he was chewing on a strip of Bobby's gum and trying to keep wrong words from forming in it. He struck me as a fellow whose gears might turn a bit slower than those of other folks, a man whose thinking cap had gotten shrunk in the wash and now fit his brain a notch too tight. "You kids can't be on this bus," the man said, finally extending one arm with a finger toward our way. But the finger shook as Carleen laughed, and Rhonda scolded, ridiculing Lester's attempts at grit and fortitude, and the man's eyes held no real spite or spleen. "Please, sir," I took another step forward. "We're just trying to get to Salina. We'll keep out of trouble and out of the way. Surely it wouldn't hurt for us to hitch a ride with you. You've got plenty of space. You're going back there, aren't you? The sign on your bus says I could get into a mighty big heap of trouble having kids on my bus," Lester stammered, taking one step back and tucking his pointed finger back under his dampening armpit as though he couldn't trust it. "My boss wouldn't like that one bit. He'd fire me. That's what he'd do. Do your folks know where you are?" "My mama and papa are down in Salina right now, sir. My papa's in the hospital. You'll be doing them a great big favor bringing us down to them. I swear." I raised one hand in the air like I was taking an oath. Surrounded by all of those Bibles, I thought it had to count for something. Lester rocked back and forth, on his heels, shoulders still wiggling, gears still grinding. Here he goes, that Lester Swan, Carleen said, caving in like a dunklehead to a little girl. Rhonda clucked her animated tongue in her motherly disappointment. It never did take more than a tap to knock my Lester to the ground. If only he turned out more like me, I'd show these kids what for. Lowering my hand, I took another step forward. Lester Swan took a second step back, as though he thought I might bite him if I got too close. Please, sir? Lester ran his right hand through his thin hair, scratching at the bald head underneath, and making the bit of tuft he had left stick up like the feathers of an ugly duckling. Carleen rolled her cartoon eyes as she rocked up and upside down with the motion. For a moment I thought Lester would kick us off the bus right there and then, leaving us on the side of the highway in the middle of nowhere. But after an awkward, wordless standoff, the moment passed, and Lester sank down to sit on the edge of the nearest seat, with an extra slump and sag of his shoulders. So, where are you all from? He asked, with the sorry voice of a man who'd just lost the last of his pluck, and knew it.